Now, President Trump is receiving a lot of criticism about his decision to reduce the size of two national monuments in Utah. Now, one company, Patagonia, had quite a bit of criticism posted on its website. I want to show you the picture of this here. When you go to their website, this is what you see. This is what pops up. The president stole your land. In an illegal move, the president just reduced the size of the Bears' Ears and Grand Staircase-Escalante national monuments. This is the largest elimination of protected land in American history. So that's where you go. Like, you go to the Patagonia site, that's what you see. Wow. Patagonia's move is apparently part of an ongoing fight in the West, one the company in the outdoor recreation industry generally has been waging against exploitation in the lands for fossil fuel development and cattle grazing. Now, look, when I think of this case, when I think of cattle grazing, my mind goes to Cliven Bundy, the guy who basically wanted to freeload off public land. He wanted his cattle to graze for free. He didn't want to pay the, cattle grazing fee, which was very, very modest. No, he didn't want to do that. He wanted to freeload off the rest of us. He's a freeloader. He felt entitled to profit off public land that belongs to all of us. So, look, this case seems to be a bit of a response. Here's Trump saying, I don't care about public land. Now, if you're a private corporation, then go ahead. In fact, we want to give that over to you. So, Now, he said, quote, we're going to reduce and eventually sell. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not a quote. But that's almost what they're going to do. They want to sell off public land to private corporations. They're going to do as much of it as they can while they're in office, while they're in power. So it may not be a quote, but that's essentially what they're trying to do. It's Republican 101. Now, what I didn't expect is some of these companies that push back against that. Now, along with Patagonia, you have REI, who's another recreational gear company who've devoted part of its homepage to a protest, saying, quote, despite the loss of millions of acres of protected lands this week, the company said REI will continue to advocate for the places we all love. So not exactly a strong response, but hey, it's a response that does raise awareness of the issue. So be fair. Now, the companies, as well as the entire outdoor recreation industry, are allied also with Native American tribes, for some whom the lands that are given away are sacred, as well as with conservationists. So, do you guys remember when Republicans used to care about conservation? About public land, about protecting wildlife, and all that different stuff? I don't. But there was a time, apparently, when, before they were taken over by multinational corporations, where the Republican Party actually did care about land and conservation and hunters and all that stuff. Now, they don't give a fuck. Oh, you want to drill for oil on this land? Okay. You want to allow some development? Sure. We live to serve our corporate masters. Now, the Native American tribes, of course, after this decision, immediately sued. One lawsuit came from a coalition of 5 different tribes, including the Hopi, Navajo Nation, Pueblo of Zuni, Ute Mountain, hopefully I'm saying that correctly, Ute Tribe, and Ute Indian. Separately, a coalition of 10 different conservation groups, including the Natural Resources Defense Council, the Sierra Club, and the Grand Canyon Trust, filed a lawsuit against President Trump and Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke and the Bureau of Land Management. Director Brian Steed, through the nonprofit environmental law organization Earth Justice, had, of course, hosted that suit. Now, this suit, which is likely to provoke a prolonged court battle, claims that Trump cannot legally revoke the land's monument status. Here's what's funny. President Trump, he talked about, we got to preserve our monuments, right? Oh, he was talking about the Confederate monuments. When it comes to actually land monuments that belong to Native Americans, or that are there to protect Native American tribes, I should say, which belongs to all of us, says, nope, don't care, not interested, we're not going to protect that, but I definitely have to protect the Confederates. And I wonder why some people think Trump's a racist. Now, both actions, of course, were in response to Trump's decision to reduce the Grand Staircase-Escalante National Monument by more than 800,000 acres, or 46%, and the Bears Ears National Monument by more than 1.1 million acres, or 85%, making it the largest reduction of public lands protection in U.S. history. These are not small numbers. Again, nearly half of all their land no longer protected, and 3/4 for another, over 3/4. Now, of course, Republican politicians, for example, Orrin Hatch in Utah, as well as Governor Gary Herbert, argued that the protected areas were unnecessarily vast. There's too much of them, too much. That limited the potential for economic growth and generally increased federal control over a state where some 2/3 of the land is already owned by the U.S. government. Trump said he reduced the monuments because some people think that the natural resources in Utah should be controlled by a small handful of very distant bureaucrats located in Washington. And guess what? They're wrong. Interesting. Right. Okay, so instead of the bureaucrats, let's just have multinational corporations control instead. That'll work out great. Like, that's better, man. Now, Patagonia's message included illustrations showing what part of the two monuments will no longer be protected and facts about protected lands, noting that currently 90% of U.S. public lands are open for oil and gas leasing and development, while only 10% are protected for recreation, conservation, and wildlife. And now, of course, after this, it's going to be even less. Now, at one point, do we stop giving corporations all of our land? I mean, at some point, we're not going to be the United States of America anymore because we'll have sold all the land to private interests. When's it going to stop? And you know it's going to come along with that, right? Especially when it comes to oil and gas leasing, which is definitely what they want to do with a lot of our land. So, I mean, look, right now how it works is they privatize the land, but when there's a spill, who pays for it? Oh, it's you guys. We do. We all do. We privatize the gains and we socialize the losses. That's what happens whenever there's a spill. So, and look, on national parks, for example, or I think pretty soon we're going to have to start paying to gain entrance to some of those parks. If we sell off this land, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to find a way to make a profit off of this. Imagine hunters having to pay access for their favorite hunting spots just because the government decided to sell off that land to private corporations. You don't think that will happen? I could definitely see that happen. Look, the thing is that Republicans, they don't want public ownership of anything. They're donors, and the politicians are always looking for some way to exploit something for profit. And make no mistake, that's exactly what this will end up being. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.